So here we are, it's Paul and Andy's podcast on a beautiful sunny day.
Beautiful.
Nice to see the sun, isn't
It is, at last.
We'll have to change the name of the podcast from Grey Matters to Yellow Matters or Sunny Matters, won't we? I've made a list.
Have you?
Yeah, I've made a list. But first of all,
Yes.
do you think it matters that it sounds like we're in somebody's dining room?
No, because we are.
Yes, but nobody listening knows that we are. They can just
They
think
do, I've just told them.
they might just think it's a poor quality microphone.
Do people think about this sort of stuff? Or do they just think,
I
it sounds
don't
a bit echoey, they might be in some sort of cavern or something?
I think that's the question I'm posing. Is it important? I was talking to a colleague of ours, Rick Edwards, who's a well-known jock and presenter, and a great guy. And his feedback was, you need some decent mics, your production's not good. And I said, well, we're going for the authenticity of two blokes moaning about things and talking about things that matter to us, grey-haired people that we are.
Yeah.
It's grey matters and grey subjects. So for the moment, until we hit superstardom and can afford to buy better mics, or can justify it, because we can afford it if we want, we're just being maverick, aren't we? We're just saying, let's do it this way. And that's the way it's going to be.
But, yes, you say that. We're working with what we've got, although we are open to suggestions.
You.
Yeah.
I'm working with what I've got.
Yes.
This all started at being some sort of idea many, many months ago, didn't it? And then, for some reason, when I became free of my employer, I decided it would be quite fun. And I don't actually know to this day whether anyone listens to it or whether we just tell our friends. The problem is, of course, we're not doing the old hashtag business and putting ourselves about on Instagram.
No.
And I think it's because we're a bit shy.
Well, and I just don't like that mentality at the moment, that people doing things for clicks and likes and things. Because to be quite honest with you, I don't really care. Yeah. And the thing is, when I was on the radio, I had no idea if anybody was listening.
Well, you did have that thing called Radar, which told you.
Yeah, but I mean, that's just a general survey. But, in any given minute, I had no idea if at that moment in time anybody was really listening.
Well, you could make an assumption that there were half a dozen.
Well, I'd like to think so, but you just never know.
Of course, now our beloved local radio very much under threat, and I can't see it surviving. Really, can you? Not in its present form.
No, I can't really.
So, what will happen to it?
I don't know. Is the answer? I think it might be because obviously the BBC have got networks like 5 Live, and I can see there being a situation where 5 Live is, well, they're going to turn all the transmitters off as well, aren't they? The FM transmitters are going to be turned off eventually, so everything's going to be digital. But I can see a time when, local radio is just a 10-minute opt into 5 Live. And you do a bulletin.
Like the news is, they opt for local news.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Well, what might happen, in fact, you suggested it earlier, was that people go, have you heard those podcasts that they do and you can download them any time and whatever. And you suggested that someone might hear that and go, yeah, why don't we put those on in a live situation, like a radio show, for instance?
Yes, let's call it radio. That's
it might come full circle.
It probably will, because nothing's ever new. And reinventing the wheel comes to mind when we're talking about radio. And things are going backwards rather than forwards. I'm sure the radio executives in this country would disagree with that, and those at the BBC. But we have got to a stage where podcasts, there are hundreds and thousands of them. They're all recorded, or many of them are. The majority of them are, and as soon as you record something these days, it's out of date. So we've gone from having live radio all the time, all day, to a situation where we've got a lot of recorded stuff. Is that progress?
It's just different, isn't it? I think you have to accept that it is different. There are certain things that are wrong because they impact you in a bad way, and there are certain things that are just different. Now, very briefly, because I've already bored you with this before we started recording, I think that robots and AI and what do you call it when they're trying to work out what
Algorithms.
Algorithms. That's it. That's the word I'm looking for.
Mm.
Did you study them in geometry, algorithms? Or
Yes.
Logarithms.
Lots of logarithms.
We should have done if we'd have done algorithms, we'd be a better place now. Let me tell you.
We would.
And so that means that when a bank flags up, for instance, that you're not going to be allowed to transfer money out of your account to another account because it's suspected fraud, a human being hasn't actually been across that decision. That's just been automatically done. And I can tell you that's happened to me. And 24 hours later, I still cannot transfer some money out of my account into my daughter's account for her 18th birthday. And whilst I've tried to be polite to the Halifax, whilst I've tried to be #Halifax polite to them,
yes.
I've said, I'm glad you're protecting me from scammers. And there's some dreadful scams going on, let's be honest, really devious.
Yeah.
This is me transferring it to my daughter. My daughter is already named as on my account as somebody that gets a direct debit for her allowance, and I've been flagged up as a. I said we must be able to switch it off or take a decision. A bank manager might have been able to. Oh, that's all right, Mr. Leather's been with us for 38 years. He can do what he likes, more or less. But that doesn't happen. So consequently, you're caught up in this vortex of the cyber world.
Yeah, and you just hit the nail on the head, because back in the day, before everything got too big and too corporate, you would go to your local branch of your bank where you would probably know the bank manager and probably 3 people that work there who would all know you. They wouldn't have to check your identity because it's you and they know who you are, and it wouldn't have been a problem. Again, is this progress?
Well, you know what occurred to me yesterday as I was going through a very tight-mouthed discourse with the Halifax. Did I mention it was the Halifax?
I think you've mentioned it a few times, actually, today.
I said, you've kept me on hold so long and asked me the same security questions 3 times with no progress. You could, in fact, be the scammers who've done an elaborate scam on me.
True.
And you've got information out of me, and you're keeping me on hold while you clean out my accounts.
Yeah.
I think we've got to have the human interaction in there somewhere. Otherwise, if we're going to let robots just organise it and AI organise things, I think we're on a real slippery slope.
We are, but the problem is, and I don't know, it's a bit of a chicken and egg one, this, because back in the day you employed humans because they had a modicum of common sense. And obviously a lot of those things have been taken over by IA, so it doesn't require people to have to make decisions. Therefore, nobody's actually getting any experience of common sense. Therefore, if you re-employ the humans to do the job, they're not going to do it as well as the AI. At least that's what the AI companies are hoping, so that they can just be in charge of everything. So it's a case of the sort of outlawing of common sense. It's been a slow erosion over the years, and it's been a war of attrition by the AI companies to make sure that nobody's got any common sense anymore, and therefore they can't do the job.
It's a conspiracy theory, Mr. Breer.
Well, is it though? I don't know. Because, like I say, is this progress?
You see, what I would
it doesn't feel like
no, it doesn't at all. And I wasn't rude to the people I was dealing with.
That's good.
They were doing their best.
Yeah.
And of course, every conversation is recorded. And I said, I just hope this is referred up the food chain so people go, hang on a minute. Because we accept all this stuff, don't we? The internet is fantastic. Oh, we've got pornography and we've got terrible things in the dark web. And the latest thing is about phones. Should phones be taken into the classroom? For kids have one when they're 4 years old. We've got all this stuff coming at us, and we haven't really thought about what's going to happen as a result. What is going to be the end game for all this? I don't think we're prepared for it.
No, and I dread to think what it is, and I don't want to think what it is. And if I did come up with something, it'd probably be wrong anyway. So I have no idea, but I can't see it panning out well. Put it that way.
You're listening to Apocalypse Now with Paul Leather and Andy Breer. Let's try and lighten the mood.
Go on then.
I've made a list because Rick said that we should have a list and stick to it. And already
you haven't
gone off the list, so
that'll be that then.
That'll be that. But on the list, I remember I put pens because I asked you if you had a pen and I could make the list. Now, a lot of people don't walk around with a pen in their breast pocket of the tweed jacket anymore, do they? Unless they're a woman. I mean, they have one in their handbag, don't often.
If they can find it.
The handbag or the
Or
pen.
both, I mean,
And then it's dried up and won't work.
Yeah.
Because we use our phones to sort of make notes.
No, I still use a pencil and paper.
You do? Do you use a pencil so you can rub it out? Or why do you use a pencil?
Because I like the texture of it against the paper.
What?
I like the way it scratches a little bit, sort of. I just like a pencil. Always have done. And I like to doodle as well while I'm thinking.
I like to doodle.
Pencils are better for doodling in my book.
That's a song, isn't it? I like to doodle. No. I like to doodle. And when I went from filofax time to electronic time,
yes.
I used to love in my diary, I'd put meeting Andy Breer to rant for an hour. I'd put a little picture or I'd doodle something in. So when I was flicking through my diary, I'd see it straight away. Yeah. Now, of course, it's electronic and you have to kind of put the search box and when am I saying Breer, I saw him that week. And, it's taken away from it, hasn't it, doodling. Anyway, I've made a list and pens was on the list and I think there's a lot to be said for a pen. And I noticed that you were using a pen that I like to use when I use a pen. It's a Uniball, I think, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Now they flow really nicely.
They do, and see, I'm a big fan of fountain pens as well.
Are you?
But the problem with fountain pens, as everybody knows, is that when they do leak, they really do leak in your pocket.
Yes.
And they're a bit messy. Yes. But I've still got my fountain pen that I used to use at school.
You haven't?
I have, yeah. I've still got it.
Was it a quill?
No, it was a Parker 25.
Not that old.
It was a Parker 25.
So you remember? You're a pen nerd.
No, I'm not a pen nerd, but we had to write in black ink and use a fountain pen at school.
Yeah.
So
did you have ink wells on your desk?
We did, but we didn't use them because we had cartridges by then.
those.
But this is very much like an ink pen. It sort of has the same sort of feel about it. Yeah. I've still got my Parker cartridges for my ink pen, and
Do you use them?
I do, yeah. But I use it when I'm sitting down and writing articles and things like that. I write in longhand. I don't use a word processor.
Really?
Yeah.
You astound me.
So
what do you do? Do you then scan it in then, or
no? I then type it up in Best because listen, it's like having a jotter at school. Do you remember those? And then copying it up in Best.
Yeah.
Because the problem is when you're writing and you write straight onto a screen and then you read it back, it looks official. It looks like it's already been published because it's in a font, it's in a style. So it's harder to edit, in my opinion. So, but crossing out things in a notebook is a lot easier.
Wow.
There is method in my madness.
That is most interesting. I like to use pens and I like to use colours.
No, I don't like colours.
I think in colour and I create in colour. So if I'm doing a mind map, do you ever do mind maps?
No.
And you're younger than me as well. So I learnt mind maps from, I think, my children years ago. But if you've got an idea, you think, I'm going to do a podcast. So you make a big cloud with podcast, and you might do it in red. And whilst you're thinking about it, you do little sprigs that come out of it, and you go, rant. So we'll have a rant for a bit of that podcast, and then we'll talk about important issues. So there'll be little sub bubbles or sub clouds out of it. So you've got a whole kind of, rather than making a list and type it, I find that quite useful because you see things as a whole and you see things in colour.
Is this something they've taught you at the day centre?
I don't go to a day centre, Andy, and I think that's very cruel because the implication you're making is that people who go to day centres just do colouring in. And I'm sure they don't.
No, I was talking about organising your thoughts and all that sort of stuff.
I don't organise my thoughts, let me tell you.
That's the whole idea of a mind map.
Well, I splurge them onto a piece of paper and then I can review them and then we can take it further. But it is quite a good way of thinking, and it gives you a moment to sort of reflection, to pause.
Yeah.
I suppose a bit like when you're typing up something. I use dictation quite a lot now because I'm not very good at typing. My daughters laugh at me because I use one finger to do a text.
Right.
Where they're using two thumbs and going send.
Yeah.
I'm going mistake, backspace, and then so I often dictate into my phone. That converts to a Word document, and then I tidy it up in Word.
In about 60 years, there are going to be lots of old age pensioners walking around with very arthritic thumbs. Don't you think?
Because of trying to text.
for texting really quickly with their thumbs.
Oh,
that's what they do.
Maybe.
And they're using them so often, they're just going to wear the joints out effectively. So there are going to be a lot of people walking around in about 50 or 60 years that can't move their thumbs at all.
Either that, or they'll have kept them very mobile and they'll have very dexterous thumbs. They'll be hitchhiking brilliantly.
Well, you go and ask a physiotherapist, which is more likely. Oh,
I forgot my bell and I nearly broke the glass doing that. Just had a bit of a break, and literally, and water all over the place now.
It's okay, I'll clean it up.
It was a lovely cup of coffee, that really
My pleasure.
nice cup of coffee, and thank you for that. And we had a bit of cakey, which was given to me earlier on to get rid of. So I've done my best. A bit of fruit cake, can't beat it.
I'm not a fan of cake. I never have been.
Good.
But this is fine.
It's okay. You don't have to be.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
What are you a fan of then? Pasties and cheesy things?
I like sweets.
Right. There was a package I couldn't help noticing arrived in your hall.
Yes.
And an exchange took place in which I deduced that they were your sweets.
Yes.
That you'd ordered mail order.
Yeah.
What's in the box?
2 kilograms of Midget Gems. What?
2 kilograms of minted gems.
Midget Gems.
Midget gems.
Yes.
What are they?
Well, they're small jelly sweets, and they're made by a company in Yorkshire, and they don't sell them anywhere else here in Devon. And I used to eat them as a kid, and I absolutely adore them. And the only place you can get them now, well, I can get them, is on the internet. So I buy a big box, and it lasts me for quite a while.
Quite a while. That long?
Yes, quite a while. And they're really nice because the black ones, you know when you normally buy Midget Gems, they're just different flavours. Well, these ones, the black ones, are actually licorice. And I like a bit of licorice.
I like a bit of licorice.
But not too much.
Well, no, don't want too much licorice. Now that's extraordinary because probably up in, where is it, Pontefract they come from?
Yes, well you've got...
Are they the Pontefract cake makers?
Well, yes, they are.
They're licorice.
Yes, and of course you've got the licorice triangle in Yorkshire. There's an area in Yorkshire which you grow, where licorice used to be grown back in the day. It's kind of Pontefract, outside Wakefield.
Hang on a minute.
What?
Licorice is grown?
It used to be, not anymore.
It's a plant?
Yes, licorice is plant. I used to grow it on my allotment.
What sort of plant is it then?
It's a plant.
It
has blue flowers.
Has it got long green leaves?
Yeah, but do you remember you used to get licorice root? Do you remember buying that as a kid?
No. Licorice all sorts is all
No, licorice root. It looked like a twig, right?
Okay.
And back in the day, they used to give it to teething babies.
Right.
Because they could just chew on it and it wouldn't do them any harm.
Their nappies must have been something else.
Oh no, I was going to say, yeah.
Because it is a well-known...
it is, yes, indeed. It keeps you regular.
Whatever you call it.
And aphrodisiac, that's completely... No,
made you smile, though.
Yes, it did make me smile.
Come into the bedroom, darling. I've had a pound of licorice.
Yes, I think that's No, I can't imagine anything worse. But, yes, so...
So you have it delivered from Pontefract. So this is... I'm surprised you haven't been interrupted, that your package hasn't been stopped by Halifax or somebody, to name a company at random, that would stop that, thinking that they might be drugs.
No, I don't think so, no.
County lines and all that.
No, it's from a reputable... It's from a confectionery shop.
Perfect cover.
It's fine. So
we've got a mule in Devon. He'll get rid of those sweets.
But no, licorice used to be grown in West Yorkshire, and it was well known for it because...
No, it wasn't.
It was.
It was not well known for it.
Well, they grew licorice and rhubarb. So you got the rhubarb triangle, and they used to grow licorice as well. And
how many people? This is a challenge. How many people listening out there? Yeah. All 9 of you. How many of you have heard of the licorice?
Well, the rhubarb triangle is more well known.
I can think of it as the licorice circle, and I can't get that out of my mind.
Well, the rhubarb triangle is more well known because it's where they force rhubarb in barns by candlelight. And
that's just flipping cruel. First it's the veal cattle, and now it's the rhubarb.
And you can hear it actually pop the rhubarb. If you go into a barn at night when it's really quiet, you can actually hear the rhubarb growing. They grow it by candlelight, and of course you know that forced rhubarb is very sweet. Anyway, they used
You're
to...
listening to Paul and Andy's podcast on April the 1st.
No, this is all true. Look it up. And anyway, they used to grow licorice up there as well. And licorice is a very labour-intensive crop. It takes a long time to grow, and it's quite expensive. So now they import their licorice, and we don't grow it in this country commercially, I don't think, anymore.
I'm absolutely gobsmacked. Or gobstopper snap. You're going to tell me about them next. That they're grown somewhere on the edge of Lancaster or whatever. No. Any other sweets you'd like to inform us about?
Not really, no. But you mentioned Pontefract cakes, still very popular. And did you know that the ladies, and they were ladies back in the day at the factory, that used to stamp them by hand? Did you know that?
Well, I assume before mechanisation, some sort of hand treatment.
And they were paid a lot of money. It was a very well thought of job back in the day.
Stamping them?
Yeah.
What are they stamping them with? The Queen's head, is it?
Well, the maker's mark. Yeah, Pontefract cakes. Yeah.
They used to get well paid.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Mind you, they had biceps the size of
I was going to say, you didn't argue with them.
We've just wasted 8 minutes of your time talking about sweets, but it's been a delight. And what I love most about our chats, our podcasts, is the fact that we go off at a tangent, and one or other of us will say something, and hopefully people out there will go, well, I didn't know that, or that's amazing, or aren't they boring, and aren't they talking a lot of twaddle all the time? But what's made me reflect upon it is that in the gap just now, we went off and did an interview for Tyndall newspapers.
Yes, we did.
They've got newspapers all over the southwest.
Yeah.
So we might get fame not through our podcast, but through an article about the fact we do a podcast.
Yes, it's very, very strange. So look out for that in your local newspaper, if you've got one anymore.